What if I told you that somewhere in China, there's a concrete wall so massive it can be seen from space? A wall that doesn't keep armies out, but holds back an entire ocean of water. This is the story of the Three Gorges Dam, and it begins not with triumph, but with tragedy. The year was 1931. The Yangtze River, China's lifeline, had become its executioner. Floods swept across the land like a biblical plague, swallowing entire cities and claiming 145,000 lives in a single devastating season. Standing amid the wreckage was a young American engineer named John Savage. You might know him as the mastermind behind the Hoover Dam. As Savage surveyed the aftermath, he made a bold declaration. "Build a dam here, in the Three Gorges, and you'll tame this killer forever." But this wasn't just any river. The Yangtze was China's Mississippi, Amazon, and Nile rolled into one. Savage's proposal seemed as impossible as lassoing a hurricane. Yet the idea took root. Sun Yat-sen, the father of modern China, embraced it. Mao Zedong wrote poetry about it, envisioning walls of stone to hold back clouds and rain. Can I see? Rain sounds very far. For decades, this dream passed from leader to leader like a sacred torch, waiting for someone brave enough or crazy enough to light it. Fast forward to 1994, China's leaders looked at the most dangerous river on Earth and said, "Let's build the biggest dam in history, right here." What happened next defied every rule of engineering common sense. Picture this challenge. You need to build a 600-foot concrete wall across a river that carries more water than 15 Niagara Falls. But here's the catch. You can't stop the river. Millions of people downstream depend on it for survival. So you have to perform the alternate magic trick. Make a raging river disappear while you build a mountain in its path. The solution was breathtakingly audacious. Engineers would split the Yangtze into temporary channels, redirecting sections of the river around their construction site, like a massive water-based shell game. They had to win a race against time itself, complete each phase before the annual flood season, or watch their work get obliterated by the very force they were trying to control. But here's where our story takes a darker turn. This engineering miracle demanded a human sacrifice that still haunts China today. Over 1.3 million people, picture the entire population of Dallas, received eviction notices from Mother Nature herself. Ancient cities that had stood for 2 millennia vanished beneath rising waters. In Fenji, workers dismantled 2,000 years of history, brick by brick, house by house. Third families who had farmed the same fields for 40 generations watched their ancestors. In 1976, warships were sent out for a vacant, much taken from both the size of light failing. Temples where emperors once prayed, markets where countless generations had traded, entire neighborhoods with their own stories and secrets. All of it sank into watery graves. Progress, it seemed, had an appetite for memory itself. Meanwhile, the construction had become a high-stakes gamble against nature. Every spring brought the flood season, and every year, engineers held their breath. In 1998, their worst nightmare almost came true. Massive floods tested their incomplete dam like a stress test designed by the gods themselves. Water levels rose so high that failure would have meant catastrophe beyond measure. But the temporary structures held. The concrete stood firm. And engineers knew they were witnessing something unprecedented in human history. The final phase was pure mechanical poetry. Ship locks large enough to swallow the Titanic were carved from solid rock. Spillways capable of channeling biblical floods were precision engineered with NASA-level accuracy. Every component had to work perfectly, because there would be no second chances. By 2012, it was finished. The Three Gorges Dam rose from the Yangtze like a concrete Everest, stretching nearly 1.5 miles across the river. The numbers still boggle the mind. Enough electricity to power California and New York combined, flood control that had eluded China for centuries, and a price tag that would make entire nations weep. But victory came with shadows. Scientists worry about ecological collapse. The reservoir triggers landslides and may be altering weather patterns. Some believe the weight of all that water is literally shaking the earth, causing earthquakes where none existed before. Today, the Three Gorges Dam stands as humanity's most audacious attempt to rewrite the rules of nature itself. It's a monument to human ambition, and a reminder that our greatest achievements often demand our heaviest sacrifices. Every time you flip a light switch, remember this. Somewhere in China, water that once destroyed ancient civilizations now quietly spins turbines, transforming tragedy into power, proving that sometimes the impossible is just another word for inevitable. The question isn't whether we can move mountains. The question is whether we should.